USS Plainview. The USS Plainview is the only American warship ever powered by fighter jet engines. At 212 feet long and over 300 tons, the experimental hydrofoil skimmed the Puget Sound on 3 retractable aluminum struts, propelled by 2 General Electric LM-1500 turbines, the same engine family used in the F-4 Phantom. When the foils extended, the entire hull lifted clear of the water, and the vessel reached over 40 knots. The Navy built it to chase Soviet submarines, since conventional hulls were too slow and aviation engineering offered the only credible answer. Laid down by Lockheed in Seattle in 1964 at a cost of $21 million, it accumulated only 70 hours of foil-borne flight across 9 years of service. Constant mechanical failures kept it tied to the dock more often than at sea. The hull now sits half-submerged in the mud of the Columbia River near Astoria, Oregon, slowly leaking pollutants into the water, a $21 million prototype, visible only to drivers who glance off the highway as they pass. The Novgorod. The Novgorod is the only warship ever built as a perfect circle. Completed in 1873 for the Imperial Russian Navy, it measured 101 feet across in every direction, displaced roughly 2,500 tons, and had a draft of just 13.5 feet that allowed it to operate in the shallow river mouths of the Black Sea. 6 steam engines drove 6 separate propellers. The entire armament, 2 11-inch rifled muzzle-loading guns, sat in a central armored barbette with a 360-degree field of fire behind 9 inches of wrought iron. The geometry that maximized armor and firepower destroyed every other useful quality. The round hull produced 4 to 5 times the drag of a conventional ship, capping top speed at 6.5 knots. In an 1877 storm, the vessel lost all forward headway. A full turning circle took roughly 45 minutes, so long that the ship was effectively unsteerable in any sea state worth steering through. A persistent legend claimed the recoil of the main guns would make the entire ship spin like a top. The Novgorod served as a static floating battery during the Russo-Turkish War and was sold for scrap in 1911. RP Flip. RP Flip is the only research vessel on Earth designed to capsize on purpose. Built in 1962 by the Scripps Institution of Oceanography for the U.S. Office of Naval Research, the 355-foot platform was towed horizontally to its research site, then flooded its aft ballast tanks with 700 tons of seawater, and pitched backward 90 degrees in under 30 minutes. 300 feet of the hull submerged into the calm water below the wave layer. Only the front 55 feet remained above the surface. The design produced a platform virtually immune to surface waves, holding position to within fractions of an inch, even in swells up to 80 feet. Because mechanical noise would have ruined the acoustic measurements that were its primary purpose, Flip had no engines or propellers, and was entirely dependent on tugs. The interior was built for both orientations, with showerheads angled at 45 degrees, sinks on gimbals, and doors mounted in both the floors and the walls. After 6 decades of submarine acoustic research and ocean physics, Flip was retired in August 2023 and saved from scrapping by the Deep Organization in 2024. Hughes Glomar Explorer. The Hughes Glomar Explorer is the only ship ever built by the CIA to steal a submarine. The cover story was that the vessel was a deep-sea mining operation owned by billionaire Howard Hughes. The actual purpose was to retrieve a sunken Soviet ballistic missile submarine, K-129, from 16,500 feet of water, 1,560 miles northwest of Hawaii. The Explorer was 618 feet long, displaced 50,000 tons, and cost over $350 million to construct in the early 1970s. The recovery system was custom-built for a single operation. A giant steel claw, nicknamed Clementine, descended on a string of drill pipe nearly 3 miles long, lowered through a moon pool measuring 199 feet by 42 feet in the center of the hull. The total cost of Project Azorian reached around $800 million in 1974 currency, equivalent to roughly $4 billion today. The mission partially failed, since a mechanical failure dropped most of the recovered section back to the seabed and only 38 feet of the submarine's bow reached the surface. The cover story proved so convincing that several mining companies began investing seriously in manganese nodule extraction, accidentally launching the modern deep-sea mining industry. Vittoriosa. The Vittoriosa is the cargo ship that looks like a 12-story warehouse, balanced on a narrow hull. Built in Japan in 1976 and originally named Blue Pegasus, The 17,789 gross ton pure car carrier was powered by a single 14-cylinder peel-stick diesel, driving it at 19 knots. Below the waterline, the design was conventional. Above it, the superstructure ran almost the entire length of the ship, a flat-sided steel box containing multiple internal vehicle decks linked by ramps. Cars are light but high volume, and the cheapest way to move tens of thousands of them across the Pacific was to maximize cubic space and ignore aerodynamic profile entirely. That flat-sided box acted as a giant sail, catching crosswinds and producing significant aerodynamic drift in poor weather. The vessel passed through 5 names across 25 years before arriving at the Alang shipbreaking yard in India in January 2001 to be dismantled. Its design template became the foundation of every modern car carrier moving vehicles between continents today. Academic Lomonosov. The Academic Lomonosov is the only nuclear power station that has to be towed to work. The non-self-propelled barge is 472 feet long, displaces 23,700 tons, and carries 2 KLT-40S pressurized water reactors derived from those used in Russian nuclear icebreakers. Together, they produce 70 megawatts of electricity and 300 megawatts of thermal power, enough to supply a city of 100,000 people. Construction began at Sevmash in 2007, and the completed vessel was towed roughly 3,100 miles across the Arctic Ocean to its permanent mooring at Pevek, Chukotka. In September 2019, Pevek has a population of around 5,000 people. The bulk of the barge's output supplies regional mining operations and offshore drilling, replacing the aging Bilibino nuclear plant and the local coal-fired station. Environmental groups have called it the nuclear Titanic, citing concerns about radioactive contamination in the Arctic. Though Rosata maintains the structure can withstand 23-foot waves and direct impact from sea ice. The vessel currently supplies roughly 60% of the western Chukotka region's electricity, sustaining industrial activity in a settlement otherwise dependent on imported diesel. Ramform Hyperion. The Ramform Hyperion is the only ocean-going ship shaped like a guitar pick. Completed by Mitsubishi Heavy Industries in Nagasaki in 2017, the 341-foot seismic survey vessel has a stern 230 feet wide, a width-to-length ratio extreme enough that the hull looks like a triangular wedge from above. Twin redundant engine rooms produce 22,200 kilowatts, driving 3 variable pitch propellers, and the ship continues operating on a single engine if the other 2 fail simultaneously. The shape exists to tow electronics. Hyperion carries 24 streamer reels and deploys up to 22 multi-sensor cables from its broad stern, creating a trailing sensor array that can cover up to 4.6 square miles of ocean surface. Compressed air guns emit acoustic pulses into the seabed, and the returning signals are recorded by the network of cables, allowing energy companies to build 3-dimensional maps of geological formations thousands of feet below the seafloor. The propulsion machinery is acoustically isolated to keep the vessel silent during surveys. When Hyperion is surveying, all other marine traffic is advised to maintain an exclusion zone of several miles, because the trailing sensor net is large enough to entangle anything that strays into its path. The area. The area is a windowless steel whale of a ship that nobody could fully identify even when it was sitting in plain sight. The hull began life in 1977 as the Soviet oceanographic research ship Yug, built at the Gdansk shipyard in Poland. Between 1985 and 1988, the vessel was rebuilt in Sevastopol into a signals intelligence collector classified by NATO as a South-class intelligence vessel. The modification gave it the appearance that made it locally infamous. A smooth, windowless, whale-shaped steel superstructure covered the entire midsection of the hull, concealing radio direction finders, signal receivers, and radar arrays. After the Soviet collapse, the vessel was decommissioned in 1998 and towed to the Finnish port of Turku in 2003, with plans to convert it into a floating casino. The owner vanished. The ship was abandoned in the harbor for 6 years, generating a steady stream of speculation that ranged from East German spy ship to Soviet Ekranoplan prototype to mafia gambling hall. The high carbon steel used in its hull was of such poor scrap quality that local shipbreakers refused to handle it. In 2009, it was finally towed to Klaipėda in Lithuania and broken up. SBX-1. The SBX-1 is an oil rig converted into a missile tracking radar the size of a stadium. Deployed in 2006 for the United States Missile Defense Agency, the twin-hulled vessel was built on a modified Russian-designed CS-50 drilling platform, purchased and adapted for ballistic missile defense. The platform is 282 feet long, displaces 50,000 tons, and stands roughly 280 feet from the keel to the top of its radome, carrying 423,000 gallons of marine diesel and a crew of approximately 86 people. The radar sits beneath a synthetic fabric dome 103 feet tall and 120 feet in diameter, supported entirely by internal air pressure and engineered to withstand winds exceeding 130 miles per hour. The active phased array contains around 45,000 transmit-receive modules. The resolution is precise enough to detect and track an object the size of a baseball from approximately 2,500 miles away, equivalent to tracking a pitched ball from New York to Los Angeles. The SBX-1 operates across the Pacific Ocean, frequently stationed near Hawaii and Alaska, transmitting tracking data directly to ground-based interceptors in California and Alaska. Its movements between ports are conducted under security restrictions, comparable to those applied to the aircraft of the U.S. President.